let's make a line of chain stitch. So bring your needle up at the start of your line and draw through all of the working thread so that your knot is holding it nice and secure on the back. Okay, so with this one, just like with Lazy Daisy, my stitching hand's going to be working, but my other hand's actually going to help us out as well. So the first thing I want you to do is lay the working thread out in the direction your line is heading in, okay? And just gently use your other hand to just sort of hold it in place there. Okay, so now poke your needle down into the same hole that you came up from at the start, or just beside it, and take care to avoid your knot. Slowly pull through the working thread, but stop when you've formed a loop on top of the fabric. Now your other hand's job was just to hold that loop in place. It might flick around, like it might end up over there. So that's why we just like having our other hand there to keep that loop where we want. Now bring your needle back up inside the loop, a stitch length ahead on the line. So see there, my needle's inside the loop. It's not over here. That's what we want, inside the loop on the line. Now gently pull the working thread. It's extending it away from the pointed end of the loop, but pull slowly and notice how your loop tightens as you increase the tension. So the tighter you pull, the more narrow and thin that loop will be. My thread's just come apart there because I'm using 6 strands of floss, and sometimes one strand just gets a little bit cheeky and out of order. So I've just tightened that up a bit. I loosened it and then tightened it, and now it's looking great. Okay, so I've made quite a tight loop there, and you might have noticed that this is quite similar to Lazy Daisy so far. But here's where we're going to do things a little bit differently because it's chain stitch. So using your free hand, once again, we're going to lay out that working thread in the direction we want it to go. But we're going to poke our needle down again. We want to poke it down the same hole as where we came up, or just beside. And that's inside that loop again, okay? So poke your needle down inside the loop where your working thread's actually coming out of the fabric. And once again, let's just go slow and form a lovely big loop on top of the fabric. Using our other hand just to keep things in place. And now, once again, bring your needle up a stitch length ahead on the line. Once again, draw your working thread away from the top of the loop. Tighten it up. You tighten your loops a lot more than you would with a Lazy Daisy when we're creating a chain stitch line like this. And what do you know? We've got 2 chains now, and we're starting to form a line of chain stitch. So you're doing great. What I want to say is that just notice how this chain here, because it came up, because the pointy end of the chain started inside the end of the last chain, it's actually holding that chain down in place. So now let's do it again. We'll lay out our working thread in the direction we want. We're going to poke our needle down inside the previous chain, very similar spot to where we came out. Pull through the working thread, but leave a nice big loop on top of your fabric. They do get a bit twisted up sometimes. And then bring your needle up on the line a stitch length ahead inside that loop. And hey, what do you know? This loop is going to hold the previous one in place. So you just continue doing that as you make your line. I'm just going to smooth out my thread a bit because it's sort of wound up a little bit. Now, the key with chain stitch is the tension. So if you pull each of your loops super duper tight, you'll end up with narrower loops. Whereas if you didn't pull on much tension, watch this. I could actually leave it like that and make another one, and that would be a much loopier effect. Generally, when I'm working chain stitch, I'm creating a line, so I'm okay with pulling each chain reasonably tight. So let's make a couple more. It really helps if you when you pull your working thread. See how when I pull it this way, what's going to happen there? It's really difficult to work with, and you don't end up with a nice chain. So always pull it away towards the tip of your chain or your loop, and then that tension against the end of it forms the loop that you want. Okay, so here we go. One more chain to finish this line, and then I'm going to show you how to secure it down. So with this last chain, I want to finish my line, but if I don't secure the end of that chain, then it's just going to come undone. So we're just going to do a little securing stitch over the end. So it's just a small stitch that goes, I've come up inside the chain. I just want to put my needle down just on the other side and then gently pull through all that working thread. And that little securing stitch, or you might call it a catching stitch, has held my chain stitches all in place. Yeah, so that's how we do chain stitch.